We need more significance. We need more status. We need more comfort. We need more nice things. We need more safety, security, whatever it is. Okay, I don't want to shit on those things because they're not the bad guy. There's not a bad guy here. We just have things. So what happens is we double down. We lean into that even more, but the wins are empty. It doesn't provide the feeling that maybe it used to when we were younger and we were starting out. And that's scary. And there's a thing of like, shit, now what? I used to play this game and I played it well and it felt satisfying. It was rewarding. It lit me up. And now it doesn't anymore. And there's this place where we feel lost. And when we've hit that place and we're feeling this anxiety, I call it deep anxiety because it's really, the tension is not that we need more of that other stuff, but that we're being called to connect with more of who we are on that essential level.
You are listening to the new man beyond the Macho Jerk and the New Age Wimp. Your host is men's coach Tripp Lanier.
Is there a voice in your head that says you need to make a change? You experience scarcity if you're not always making more money. And what can you do if the things that used to light you up feel empty now? Today, Alyson and I discuss what we can do when we feel out of alignment with our lives. We talk about why we don't need to beat ourselves up, what really holds us back from making a change, and why feeling not enough is really just an invitation to get out of the shallow end of the pool. I think your need to pee is psychosomatic. It's an illusion. I do need to clear something up with you.
Do you? It's interesting that you wait until you're recording for you to say, "I need to clear something." I need a
safe environment.
Is that what it is?
That's why I record things so that I can post them online and hold them against you.
Because that really works for me. I'm always online.
It's the way to solve problems is to publicly shame people.
Shame. All right, what do you need to clear with me?
I just wish you would listen to me when I say that I am not the father of Margot Robbie's child. I don't feel like you believe me.
You don't? You know how I know you're not the father of Margot Robbie's child?
What could possibly?
You're here.
I'm here.
You're still here.
All right. You think I'm the one, huh?
It's definitely you. I demand a paternity test.
Okay.
What's it feel like in your body when you...
Oh, come on.
I didn't mean to. I don't know how to turn that. What do?
I like how you've had computers for 20 plus years and I don't know. I don't know. Just what was the...
If I just mute the whole thing, will it...
I think we should just keep going because it's already happened.
Is there anything else you need to clear with me?
Yes, I'm pretty sure I'm not Margot Robbie's, the father of Margot Robbie's child.
You're pretty sure?
I'm pretty sure.
What would have you be pretty sure instead of like assuredly?
Let's just not go there. Did you see there was a clip on Jerry Springer where the guy was like, have you cheated on your girlfriend? And he's like, well, let's wait and see what this paternity test said. And he's like, obviously I haven't, because it's not my baby. And I was like, man, that was well played. Didn't fool anybody there.
I wonder if he was coached to say that.
All right.
Okay.
We're starting high. Starting big this morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well.
Are you looking at my tits?
Jesus.
You did. I just saw you.
No, I was looking at the glasses that you have hanging from your shirt.
Take them out.
Okay. What is it? You're leading. You're.
How about now? I can't. like messing with you.
How many years did you teach manners and all of that stuff at those schools for girls? Like
-7.
-7. Okay.
All right.
That's why I like you.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm doing good.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to think of anything I would want to share other than I'm good.
Okay.
I'm a little. I don't know what to expect because you haven't told me what we're getting into today.
Well, I haven't told you because it's someone who wrote in.
Oh,
and
I don't believe you.
You don't believe me?
No.
You don't believe that somebody wrote in?
Just like you don't believe that I'm not the father of Margot Robbie's child. How's it feel to be just
consistent,
diminished?
All right. All right. This is from Tom.
Tom. Hey, Tom.
Selleck.
Tom Selleck.
He not the kind of Tom.
Tom
Selleck that you're thinking of.
We could just spend the whole hour talking about Tom Selleck.
Yeah, but this is not the guy that you're thinking of. The actor, right?
I'm thinking about the mustache.
Okay.
When I was in third grade,
the actor.
that mustache was everything I wanted. And the Ferrari.
Did it like tickle your taint a little bit?
Oh my God.
I don't know why I'm coming up with all these raunchy things. I was in a grumpy mood this morning.
You know, it just helps balance things out because when I get all prim and proper, you just turn into a dirtbag.
That must be it. We always play the pole with each other.
And then if I'm the dirtbag, you're like, oh, stop.
It's true. We tend to do that with each other. Anyway, okay. So this is from Tom. This is a sincere question.
Oh.
So this is from Tom. Tom is a legal expert. He's been in law his whole life. He's a legal expert who helps train and shape the legal body of knowledge for AI, which I think is pretty cool.
That sounds real.
Yeah.
I'm picturing him.
So Tom says,
that beautiful man and that beautiful mustache and that beautiful car.
Okay. You can think of this Tom like that if you want, as long as you respond sincerely. So Tom says, hi, Tripp. I love your show.
Oh, thanks, Tom.
Yeah, right? He says, I get a lot out of every conversation you share.
Oh, thanks, Tom.
I know. It's nice of him to say. I'm writing to you because I'm feeling stuck. I've made it in my career and could coast and be comfortable for the rest of my life. My wife and kids seem happy, but I'm like, meh. I find myself asking, is this all there is? Mostly when I have like sleepless nights. He says, I find myself asking, is this all there is on sleepless nights? He says, the thing is, I don't know what I would do next if I made a change. And my wife has been really clear that she wants to keep the lifestyle we have. Sometimes, usually in the middle of the night, I feel like if I stay in this career, I'm going to go crazy. But if I move on to something I love, then I'll go broke. And both when I'm ad-libbing here because he talked a little bit more about being sleepless, but essentially he's saying like, it's the worst at night, and I can't see a way through, and both choices seem miserable. Essentially, question is, I'm feeling stuck, and what do I do? Is that bad?
We can still hear you.
Well, you should edit it out. Don't tell.
It's like, what the fuck?
It's only here that I can talk. Otherwise,
you live in this magical world. Like if you stick your head under the couch, we don't see you. All right. So this is the conversation. Should damned if I do, damned if I don't. Coasting.
Yeah, really comfortable.
But also really like there's a lot of tension.
There's tension.
This is really common, by the way. A lot of people I talk to deal with some version of this. And they can be obviously older folks, older meaning like later on in their career, or it happens with a lot of younger people too that I talk to. There's this kind of push through those early years of working and kind of figuring out, okay, I can make money and I can do a thing. And then there's this like, wait a second, is this really what I want to be doing for the next 10, 20 years? So I can appreciate
Yeah.
that. That was true for me. Like in my late 20s, I kind of hit a place like, oh, was this really it for me?
Well, it's interesting. I feel like that it's so, I remember when I was 15 or 16, every time I would see adults around holidays or breaks or whatever from school, people would be like, and what is it that you're going to do for, like, what's your career track, basically? And I was like, dude, I'm freaking 15. I'm
Right.
only 16. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are you going to go to college for? I don't know. And so I wonder how often it is for people that they feel like they have to pick something, so they pick something, and then there's just the whole game of like building up to that for the career, and then you get the career, and then things ideally start going pretty well financially for you, which is a big drive for people in careers they choose, and so then that's kind of how it builds.
Yeah, I mean, there's healthy ways that we get into our careers in the first part of life, but how often is it that we choose a career based on what it looks like,
Yeah.
or we like the sound of the title,
Yeah.
or people raise their eyebrows when we say I'm going to be XYZ, and they're like, oh, well, that sounds great.
Yeah,
You're going to do it.
totally.
You get this validation, but you have no idea what the day-to-day is like.
Yeah.
And then you get stuck in this thing, and you're like, wait a second, what have I gotten myself into? How many more years can I do this shit?
Yeah. And
I just want to name, it's a luxury to be able to have this.
It is.
And I know a lot of guys that reach this place and they'll turn the blade on themselves. Like, oh gosh, what a dick. Like I can't,
like
I
they're
should be
they're
more
letting
grateful.
people down.
No, but just like I what a spoiled brat. Like that I would complain. So many people would love to have what I have. I shouldn't complain. And so there's this,
Yeah.
it feeds this need to push it down and deny it and invalidate it. I think both can be true. Like I'm really fortunate to be where I am. And then also I'd like to make a change.
Yeah.
Something needs to change, and both can be true instead of, compared to others, I've got it made, so I should just shut up.
Well, and speaking into, I was reading into this. He didn't say it explicitly in what he wrote, but he said it seems like he only addresses this with himself at night. Like this doesn't. He feels the mad during the day. He's not super unhappy or really upset about things. He gets through it, but then at night is where it all shows up for him. And so I was thinking, like, maybe that's what you're speaking to, like that privilege of like, I shouldn't want something else, or I shouldn't. I have what I have it. Why complain, or why want something else? And so I feel really curious about, you said this is really common and you've seen and worked with a lot of people in this domain. So what is going on? Like
There's a lot of things going on. I mean, for some folks, they're like, oh, I've got my life purpose, but really if you look at what they've invested in, their time and their energy and what they've identified with, it's some kind of track that moves up and to the right. It's about, I did more than I did last year. I did better than I did last year. I'm more important, or I have higher status, or I have more money, or I have XYZ than I did last year. And there's this up and to the right. I'm looking at a graph. Mm-hmm. And so that idea of creating more and becoming more in that way is essentially the purpose. Like that's what we're doing. And you can tell, because if they were to deviate from that and do something that would have the needle go the other way, mm-hmm. the whole system freaks out. It's like, oh, it's not okay.
Do you mean the external, like family or work
internally,
system?
Internally, there's like, oh shit, that won't be okay. And there's this fear because we adjust to this new level, the hedonic treadmill kind of thing, but also just it's an identity thing. It becomes loss. It feels like loss to make less money, earn less money, or somehow be less mm-hmm. than. And this is largely about self-image and self-worth than it is about, am I actually okay? Are we going to be okay? And so for a lot of guys, it's like, when I talk to them, I'm like, well, I want to make a change, but I have to at least make the same amount of money or more.
Yeah.
And it's like they've created this kind of force field where they're unable to make a move unless it fits these conditions of continuing to move up and to the right.
Yeah, I mean, I remember working with a gal, this was years ago, but she had the same thing going on. She was like, I'm not happy in my job and I want to do something different, but I'm unwilling to let go of the income that I'm making.
Yeah, and that's a choice. I don't want to make anybody the bad guy here, but if we understand that we're making this choice, then I think we can look at why we're making that choice. And we can look at it and say, yeah, it really is that terrifying for me. We will be on the street. We'll be destitute if I don't continue to go up and to the right. And for the case for these people who have done really well for themselves, they have adjusted their lifestyle accordingly. Some of them are still spending, gobs and gobs of money and just getting by, even though they live really well. And some are actually just fine. They're very secure, but it is more the self-image, self-worth thing.
Well, hang on. I want to kind of like slow this down and unpack this because you're saying a lot. If I have a version of this even for myself, and there seems like a question of, is this really true? Right? Are we going to be destitute? And there may be a yes to that if they're whatever, what do you call it? Their lifestyle or their spending is at a certain, if they're spending like ridiculous amounts just on their landscaping or something, and so they have the debt on that, and then they want to make a change. So there may be some truth to that, right? Like we might actually, our lives might really change. So there is kind of a potentially really grappling and reckoning with what of my lifestyle am I willing to say no to in the name of what I'm a yes to.
And I think this is where we have to shift perspective. If I am anchored in my need for significance and comfort and certainty, then this stuff is really dangerous. It feels like death. Shifting my lifestyle, maybe moving into a different home or a different whatever, that is just terrifying. And I can appreciate that.
It seems like an identity. You're speaking to identity here.
Right. I mean, the reality is it's not a terminal diagnosis. It's not the loss of a limb or a loved one. It's a shift in lifestyle. But it can feel like a huge blow, an impact. And
how do you work with that if that's, I mean, there's that going on for the individual. And then what's it like if there's the water they're swimming in? Like I know someone, I just spoke with them, and their husband is ready to be done with his career. And the job is just throwing money at him. Like they're just doing everything they can to keep him. They know he wants to leave and they don't want to let him go. And so they're making it sweeter and sweeter and sweeter, what they think would be sweeter for him. And it is pretty sweet. Like he's choosing to stay on. So what do you do when there's the environment? So that's one example. And then another example is like, what do you do when the family, it's like the wife or the mother or whatever is like, don't do that. Don't give it up.
Yeah, I think the first thing before we get to the external stuff is shifting internally from this attachment to I'm only okay if I'm moving up and to the right, more, and realizing it's time to go deeper. It's time to go deeper into who I really am. And not identifying that is what makes me okay. And that's what makes me who I am, is this job title and how much I've made and where I live and all these external things. It's an opportunity to go much deeper into who we are.
And so you're saying that they can, if they start there, nothing on the outside or with their job necessarily is changing right away. You're just inviting them to go inward and take a deep dive.
And recognize that's not all of who I am. Those things are nice. But that's not all of who I am. And is this really, and we've got to have perspective. We've got to be able to really zoom out and get away from this small self and not condemn it, not make it bad, not make it sick or anything, but just to look at it and say, is that really all of who I am? Is that really all that I want for my life? And we might start to open up, hopefully. I mean, this is what I try to help people do, is start to get more in touch with our essence or our soul. What is it that I'm really here to give? What is it that I'm really here to share? What is it that I'm really here to experience? And we might find that it doesn't really line up with, let's just go make more money or get more comfortable or have more nice shit or be more significant. So that separation can be healthy. And I don't think it means that we've got to sell all our shit and live in a car. It doesn't mean that at all. But it does mean that we can take our seat in the bigger aspects of ourselves, our big selves, our soul, our essence, and have access to that. And let that inform our decisions more going forward. Otherwise, it just becomes this wrestling match with kind of the small self and its needs for survival and importance.
You know, what I'm hearing is I personally have been doing this work with understanding the kind of client that I want to have, that I'm a yes to, that would be my ideal for me. And one of the distinctions that I came up with, actually to your credit, because you and I were chatting in the kitchen one day and you were like, I really love working with the guys that haven't yet opened to the other possibility. Like they're like, they're new. They're new in this sort of like connecting with something beyond the hard material life, but they're like, there's sort of this initial opening to it. You really like helping kind of usher them into that, I think you said.
Well, I like when they have access to it. It's painful to work with those that don't have access to that.
Well, that's so the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you said that, I was like, oh, that's helpful for me to understand, because I really like working with people that already have access to it and are really kind of already on that path, like in a solid, pretty more solid way. And so
I would agree with you. It is enjoyable when they...
Hang on, let me just finish. So the thing that I'm wanting to point out here, based on that little context, is that it's what I'm hearing and what you're saying is there has to be that ability, what you're saying, like go deep. There has to be a context or a willingness to actually turn away from hard materialism, like the hard sort of material life. That's because that's kind of what Tom's saying. So there has to be a reorientation, and you're talking about going deep, going inward, going, seeing getting in touch with like what would really light them up and be satisfying. But even what you're saying, like that nobody's dying, nobody's sick, nobody lost a limb. Like you're trying to scale it in such a way. You're scaling the difference between hard materialism. This is what I'm hearing. You're scaling the difference between sort of that hard material orientation into more what we might call the soft or the unseen or the intangible, subjective. And so that feels really important to name. Because there can be, it's what I'm hearing you say is like, this is workable, but it's like a stepped process.
Yeah, you can't. So let's come back to Tom not being able to sleep. What's often there is that when that's happening, it tells me that someone has felt that tension. And the small self decided, you're calling it this materialism, has decided we must not have enough. Let's get more. That's the strategy of the small self. We need more significance. We need more status. We need more comfort. We need more nice things. We need more safety, security, whatever it is. Okay. I don't want to shit on those things because they're not the bad guy. There's not a bad guy here. We just have things. So what happens is we double down, we lean into that even more, but the wins are empty. It doesn't provide the feeling that maybe it used to when we were younger and we were starting out, and that's scary. And there's a thing of like, shit, now what? I used to play this game and I played it well and it felt satisfying. It was rewarding. It lit me up, and now it doesn't anymore. And there's this place where we feel lost. And when we've hit that place, and we're feeling this anxiety. I call it deep anxiety because it's really, the tension is not that we need more of that other stuff, but that we're being called to connect with more of who we are on that essential level.
Yeah, but and I'm thinking that like if your whole world has been the more, that's got to feel
It's terrifying.
really scary. And like you're like just walking a tightrope between two cliffs or something.
Well, I want to point this out because if we're looking at it and all we know is this one strategy, and there's this thing like, God, I got to work harder.
Yeah.
I got to go up even more. Like I'm trying to, like the mountaintop just keeps moving further and further away. That's a terrible feeling.
Especially if you've like made it to some degree and you're like at a certain age and you're feeling tired.
It breeds workaholism. It breeds greed. It's this never enough feeling. No matter what we do, it just doesn't feel like it's enough. And so I want to throw out there that there's another move here to make, which is to go inward instead of continuing to go up and to the right and go after more and more shit that we don't really need. And that can be, that does feel scary to the small self. The small self likes its identity. This is who I am. I decided at 18 I was going to be a whatever, and then I went and got that degree, and then I've become successful in that. We're starting to shake. Like, well, who am I really? And that's the work. Like being willing to lean into who am I really, and go into that conversation. And start to create some distance from the small self. Again, the temptation is to condemn it. The temptation is to like want to kill it. No, the only part that wants to kill the ego is just the ego. Like always, right. So it's just recognizing this is an aspect of who I am. It's a necessary aspect of who I am. But there's a deeper conversation here, and it's an opportunity to connect with who I really am on a more essential level, like who I was when I came into this world, instead of who I manufactured to be in this world.
It's interesting. As you're talking, I find myself thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which for people that don't know, it's like a big pyramid, and the base of the pyramid is like straight up needs, like food, shelter, health, water, like it's real basic chop wood, haul water stuff. And then as you move up, those needs get met. Then at the very top of the pyramid, there's stuff in between, but essentially at the top of the pyramid, when all the other things have been met, there's there's opportunity for what he calls self-actualization. But what I'm hearing is that we get the ego. Well, you're saying the ego, which it is. The ego is all about, it's healthy, and it's also all about survival.
We need it. Yeah.
We totally need it. And but what I'm hearing is like the ego becomes the whole pyramid instead of just the base of the pyramid, the foundation of like safety and making sure needs are met. And so then that way that we orient towards anything else is just only looking through the lens of the ego. Like, do I have enough water, and can I chop this wood? And
we saw this in, and I remember living in Boulder, and it was like the people that had been uber successful and high achievers in Silicon Valley or wherever and moved to Boulder, and now it was like, I'm going to become spiritual. And they still were like achiever, like I'm going to be super achiever, spiritual guy. And I'm going to, instead of 10 years, it'll be 5. And it was like, okay, you just swapped out the BMW for a cart. And now it's, it's just the same. It's the same game. You're still playing the same game.
Yeah.
And it's still like, how much can I do, and how well can I do it, and how fast can I do it? And I'm going to optimize for this and that. And it's like, all right, go for it, man. So this tension, this anxiety that we have, I think is that little mosquito in our ears. It's like, it's time to wake up. It's time to connect. This is not all of who you are. And there's more to you. There's more that's waiting and wanting to be expressed. And will you be willing to listen to that? Because it's going to torture you until you do, and you're willing to. And I'd hate that some people, it kind of destroys them as they go through self-coping behaviors to try and distract them and stay, if Tom's only hearing it at night, it tells me he's very distracted during his day. He doesn't have quiet time and solitude to get in touch with this stuff. but it could be rather beautiful. It could be a really amazing opportunity, and it could create a lot more connection, real genuine connection, not just with himself, but with people around him. He might find people that are like really see him for the first time.
It's interesting. I mean, you probably can guess what I'm going to say, that this is really hard to do without help, without having someone in your corner. And what I'm hearing you speak to, Tripp, is that you have an eye on really actually like what's actually happening. And that when a person is faced with this, it is, you're just in it. You can't, there's like no sense of what's happening other than maybe something wants to live through me and as me.
Mm-hmm. What's happening for you?
I don't want this to be on the recording. I want to say what I want to say because it's for this. And I'm also, I'm in a version of this, as you know. So when I'm in it, I'm really in it. I can't see. I don't know which way's up.
Yeah.
I just feel strongly about a thing, and I get confused. Like, is this my soul calling me into something? My essence trying to show like true north? Are the things that I say that I want, is that egoic? Like, is it coming from more the foundational thing and I'm making meaning there instead of what I wanted to say here is you really need help when you're here because you can't see up from down. If you feel like you're upside down, you don't know which way's up. Or if you feel like you're getting ready to tumble in the washing machine cycle and you want your bearings like you've always had in your whole life. If you're comfortable, if your family's comfortable, if the money's good, if whatever's good, there's nothing that's really wrong. Yet you feel on the edge of this big precipice or cliff and you don't have a sense of what, like there's no bearings there. Having a guide or someone in your corner feels so essential. And what I'm aware of is, as you're talking about this, as you're just answering this simple note here, is that you have a beat on that there's something higher that is actually kind of pecking or calling or nagging or poking. And then you're also saying that there's a conversation between the something higher and the foundational egoic clinger. Let's just, the one that's white knuckling things, make everything okay. There's something in between. It seems like you're able to hold the seat of the one that doesn't get wrapped up in the egoic, like clingy, freaked out part, or wrapped up in the visionary, the soulful part that's like, there's more here for me. There's more to life than this.
Ideally, we're able to create our lives from a whole self. So if we visualize a boardroom, we have the parts of the small self sitting at the table and all of their various commitments. Got to look good, got to be important, got to be safe, got to make sure XYZ doesn't happen again. All around.
All of those you categorize as small self.
Yeah. They all make up the small self. They're all on the bus. Right? They're all
at the table.
They're at the table. And then sitting at the head of the table is the big self.
And that's the one that can listen to everybody without being
It's our
driven
essential
by them.
self. It is the deeper part of us. But essentially, we want a conversation. where the small self, the fears and concerns and terrors of the small self get heard, and they are appreciated, and they're accepted, and whatever challenges or fuck ups we've had are forgiven. And we move from isolation into remembrance, where we remember aspects of ourselves and we bring them online. And then we also are able to take our seat in more of our big self. Who are we called to be? Who are we here to become? What wants to speak through us and as us? And be informed by all of it, not one or the other. Because I know that there's this tendency to bypass when we want to be the big self so bad. There's this, I won't feel pain there. I won't have to deal with XYZ there. I can kind of escape the challenges of the small self, and it's bullshit. We have both in our world, but the idea is that we can be informed by all aspects of the self and lead our lives accordingly, so that we can be comfortable, we can be safe, we can have acceptance and of those around us, but then also really nurture a deeper connection to who we are and all of who we are, and learn to express that in our lives, and do so harmoniously instead of this constant battle. And also watch out for where the small self is going to hijack. Ooh, the big self could do this. Let's figure out a way to make more money and be more important and moving up and to the right. Like, there's just going to be this thing that the small self's going to want to do, and recognize it and say, hey, thanks so much for chipping in there. Appreciate your efforts, but we're going to come back to this other thing. So the idea that I play with is recognizing what the small self does, just recognizing its game. Meditation's beautiful for this. Like, there he is again. Like, there's this aspect of myself again. What does he need? What is he fighting for? What is he wanting? What is he protecting? What is he exiling? And having compassion for those parts. And then there's nurturing the big self. And I've appreciated when I've worked with clients, and this is a little hesitant to say this, but that have practices in place or rituals in place that allow them to access big self. And for some, that can be psychedelics. For some, it's meditation retreats. But there's some regular structure in their lives that allows them to have access to more of who they genuinely are underneath all of the protecting and pleasing and proving. And then we come back and there is a structure. Okay, what have we learned? And when I'm working with clients, like, okay, what did you get from that last medicine journey, let's say? What is it that we would want to integrate going forward? And then how could we work with the small self to move this forward where it doesn't blow up your life and you're not living in a car and you're not destroying your marriage and we can work going forward. Sometimes it is, okay, that is the download. We're going to do XYZ. Let's get after it. But we can do it in a way where it's not this kind of all or nothing thing where the whole system is just completely unraveled.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm hearing is like it resizes the emergency or the level of fire down to smoke instead of the actual fire that's going off. It sort of resizes the perspective of the problem.
That's it.
And so there's this experience of like, oh wait, I'm not going to die, or my life isn't going to crumble into pieces if I listen to what does want to come through and begin to see how I can weave that in just today, right now. What would I do differently right now if I don't quit my job, if I don't cut my marriage out of my life or my family out of my life or whatever it is? Like what could life look like simply if I...
It requires discipline. And I think that's the part where it's like some people are wanting to go, let's say, medicine journey. It's like, I'm going to go do this medicine journey.
Yeah.
And that's going to fix me.
They want the magic bullet.
And it's just like this. No, it's not.
It's, and for those of you who are kind of just getting turned on to this whole thing with medicine stuff, it is a catalyst. It is just the beginning. It's not the magic bullet. It's not the solution.
Right.
Please know that is not what that's about.
And it's like any other retreat in the sense that it allows us to get a glimpse, But then we got to come down the mountain,
That's right.
right? We got to come down the mountain and then, okay, how do I integrate this instead of living this
Yes.
back and forth pendulum swing between this life that I live in a retreat or under the influence of a psychedelic,
Yeah.
and then I got to pack my kids' lunch and get them to school. And so the discipline and the structure is required to help us integrate those things and say, yeah, what would it look like to live more aligned with soul here? And that's essentially what's going to allow us to relax that mosquito in our ear that's saying you're off track.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like when I hear you speak to this, I hear this can be about anything. This can be about the woman or man who thinks, I have to I'm going to leave my husband or wife for this other person because I can be myself around them. Right? Like, oh, I can only be this over here, or I have to live over here because this is where I can be free in my true self or whatever. And I think about, it's actually all the same.
Yeah.
It's all the same. And it has to do with having the courage to integrate what it is you're feeling into your day to day, as you are, in where you are.
Instead of escape.
Instead of escaping. Yeah. Yeah. What I'm aware of, I'm thinking of a client that I'm working with, and it's like he's not going to change. He actually isn't making very big changes. He's not changing his career. He's not changing his life. He's not leaving his marriage. If anything, he's actually turning more towards his marriage, and he's just simply cutting out things that feel like more distractions that were helping him stay distracted, and using that time to be more intentional about integrating where he is feeling more strong, where he wants, what's calling him.
Yeah. As you say that, it's like I hear, where can I close the gap between where I feel called to go and where I currently am? The greater that gap, the greater the tension, the greater the feeling that something's off or wrong. And the greater that the small self wants to say, ooh, we must be doing it wrong. And it turns to criticism, you piece of shit. And you're not, and then isolation.
Right.
Oh, this is shameful. We don't want to tell people that we feel that we don't have our shit together. Instead of, okay, how can I close this gap? What would be in more alignment? And we have to have an environment where we're not allowed to bullshit ourselves.
Yeah.
Number one. And then number two, it's like, what am I going to do? I got to clarify the actions I am going to take or the experiments I'm going to engage in. Where do I feel more free, more alive, more love, and more peace as a result? And then the accountability. Like, let's go do it.
These are all places, where it really helps to have somebody asking those questions to you.
Yeah.
And,
good men's group, coach.
In your corner for it. Yeah. Not going to judge you or try to persuade you one way or the other.
Cult leaders love to find people in this arena and want to prescribe the path to you instead of draw it out.
As does AI.
Well, I think that's important to recognize, which is when we're lost in this place, we are looking for someone to just tell us what to do. Just give me that worked X years ago when it was like, what path should I take? Career is like, here it is. Here's the formula.
For sure.
And so the small self is, tell me what I should do.
Yeah.
When in actuality, there's a process here to I need help figuring out what I want to do and how I want to lead this and creating the space for that to happen. So more gardening than construction.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that, nobody's going to blow anything up. Nobody needs to go blow anything up yet or at all, maybe. But
and if things do change in that fashion, it's usually not a huge dramatic thing.
Right.
It just becomes the next step. It's like, this is changing.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. I like your question. Thanks, Tom.
If these interviews are helping you, please leave a positive review on whatever podcast app you use so that others can discover the show more easily.